Good afternoon to everybody joining the call. We're going to hold on for just a minute while we allow more people to join, and then we will get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Sorensen, spokesperson here at CU Boulder. I'll be moderating today's call. Some quick housekeeping items before we get started. Today's webinar is focused on students and families. Next week on Tuesday, March 23rd, the campus Q&A will focus on faculty and staff. If you have a question for the experts on today's webinar, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit a question, and you can start doing that now. Please note we're prioritizing questions based on the subject of students and families, and we will be following up on the March 6th incident on the Hill. We will do our best to get to all questions. If we do not get to your question, you can reach us at colorado.edu/COVID-19. Our experts will answer your questions until the questions run out. If by chance we run out of questions prior to the scheduled ending of the webinar, we will end early. And as a reminder, today's call will be recorded, and that recording will be available on our COVID-19 website. On today's call, we have Chief Doreen Jokerst with CU Police, Chief Maris Harold with City of Boulder Police, Devin Kramer, who is CU Boulder's Acting Dean of Students, and Jeff Zayak, who is Director of Boulder County Public Health. Pardon me. In addition, we are joined by Catherine Eggert, Senior Vice Provost, Jennifer McDuffie, Associate Vice Chancellor for Health and Wellness, Commander Mark Hyatt with CU Boulder Police, and Trina Ruland, Deputy County Attorney with Boulder County Attorney's Office. I'll now turn it over to Chief Jokerst, who will get us started with some opening comments today. Chief.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Our department continues to assist the Boulder Police Department with their investigation into the riot on the University Hill neighborhood on March 6th. We are very thankful to the volunteers who came out Sunday morning to clean up the neighborhood. It's what CU Boulder is truly all about. Tomorrow, as you know, is St. Patrick's Day. Historically, this is a time of celebration, but we are also asking our students to consider the greater good for CU Boulder and the city of Boulder over their desires to celebrate the holiday. Follow the public health guidelines and keep your gatherings to no more than 10 people from up to 2 households. Wear face coverings and stay physically distanced. CUPD has a great working relationship with the Boulder Police Department, and we will be partnering with them to provide extra patrols in the University Hill and other campus neighborhoods, as well as on our own campus throughout this weekend. We don't ever want to see a repeat of March 6th. We want everyone to keep our great community safe and enjoy St. Patrick's Day responsibly. Now I will turn it over to Chief Harold for an update on BPD's investigation.
Thanks, Doreen. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I want to accomplish a couple things in the short time that we have. One, I want to give you an update on the investigation as it stands right now. As promised, Boulder PD has been very transparent in the investigation and has put out daily media releases regarding arrests, investigative tips, and so forth related to this investigation. So at this time, I just want to inform the community that we have made 10 physical arrests for various crimes relating to the issue and the disturbance on the Hill. We arrested 5 people this weekend. That was put out in the media release as well. We have 3 warrants pending and 1 arrest warrant actually right now that we are working on as we speak. There will be more arrests forthcoming. We have a task force dedicated to the investigative process that includes Boulder County District Attorney's Office, CU Boulder Police, and Boulder police officers as well. The community has been great. We've received over 800 Crime Stoppers tips that we're pursuing, and this investigation will continue probably for at least several more weeks. So with that, I just wanted to give the community also an update on our deployment strategy. As Chief Joker indicated, we'll be working in partnership to put a very robust deployment strategy out for St. Patrick's Day. So we are fully staffed for the entire day, 24/7 cycle, including a undercover and task force that will respond on the Hill for calls for service. So you'll see much more robust presence on the Hill, and we'll have needed resources both from CU and Boulder Police Department to deal with any disturbances that we have. I'm asking the community of CU to please not have large parties, wear masks where appropriate, and please follow all the guidelines set out by the Public Health Department. Appreciate it. And now I'll turn it back over to, I believe it's Andrew. Thank you very much.
Actually, I believe we're going to turn over to Devin Kramer, who's going to have a few remarks for us today.
Thank you. So we've had a lot of questions about the student conduct process, and I wanted to provide some clarity. This will be a broad overview, and just know that there are a lot of nuances to the process. The Student Code of Conduct will provide a lot more detailed information. I could talk for several hours about this process, but I'll keep it to under 5 minutes so that you have a broad understanding, but don't fall asleep. You can find the Student Code of Conduct on the Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution website. When Student Conduct Conflict Resolution receives a report of a potential violation of the university policy, our team reviews the evidence and determines whether or not the reported behavior may violate policy. If there may be a violation, we send the students a conduct notice. This notice encompasses the date and time of the alleged violation. It also provides a summary of the evidence the university has that leads us to believe that the student violated the policy. We clarify which policies may have been violated, and we provide a written description of each one. We provide a date and time for the student to attend a hearing and how to reschedule if that doesn't work. At the hearing, the student can provide witnesses and evidence that they want the hearing officer to consider. If necessary, the hearing officer will investigate the matter further and schedule a second hearing so that that student can respond to any new information or evidence the hearing officer discovers. After the investigation is complete and the student has been given an opportunity to respond to all of the evidence, that's when the hearing officer makes a decision based on a preponderance of the evidence standard, or in other words, what is more likely than not what happened. And they make a decision for each individual potential policy violation. If there is a violation, that is considered the student being held responsible in a conduct process. At this point, the hearing officer determines appropriate sanctions. They can range from a warning and educational sanctions up to an expulsion, meaning the student can never return to CU. A student who's too loud in a residence hall after quiet hours may receive a warning. A student hosting a large party during a pandemic or damaging property in a riot may face a suspension, generally ranging from a semester up to about 4 years. If they assault people, including police in a riot, they may face expulsion. In each case, we need to consider all of the facts, as well as any aggravating and mitigating factors, which is why there's not a one-size-fits-all approach and why it's so important that our students receive the process that's due to them. The hearing officer then sends a decision letter to that student, and if the student's placed on formal probation, suspended, or expelled, they have a right to appeal their case. After they submit an appeal, a board reviews the case and makes a variety of decisions based on what they said in their appeal. For the most part, the board is determining whether or not the sanctions are appropriate. After the appeal board makes a determination, the student's notified of the final decision, and at that point, the case will be included in our next scheduled dashboard update with information about sanctions. I want to end with a note on FERPA, or the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. A conduct process is part of a student's education record. It can have significant impacts on a student, such as impacting a student's ability to get into graduate school or join in certain student leadership positions. But as a student education record, it cannot be shared publicly. We're only able to share broad updates on numbers of students involved in our process. We anticipate a large number of students being held accountable for the March 6th riot, which is why we intend to provide updates specifically to that situation and separate from our other dashboard. And now I'll turn it over to Jeff Zayak.
Thank you, Devin. Appreciate it. And thanks to all of you who are tuning in today. I want to give an update on what we're seeing in terms of cases in Boulder County. I'll talk specifically about the 18 to 22-year-old age group as well, which is again, right now our highest age group in terms of number of cases. The first thing I want to say is we're definitely not out of the woods yet. I want to stress that with folks. I'm sure you've heard some of that on the national news as well. We've got national numbers that have plateaued across the United States. We're in a race to get vaccine out and try to beat cases and try to beat variants that are becoming more prevalent across the United States. And the good news is we are getting vaccines out in Boulder. We're doing well with our highest risk populations, which is great, but we're definitely not out of the woods yet. We don't have enough people vaccinated at the state level. I think we're just above 22, 23% at this point. We need to be closer to 70% to have herd immunity across the state. And that's a couple months out from now. We do expect to get some more vaccine at the end of this month and the beginning of April. And as we get that, we are ready to distribute it. We've got a lot of capacity here in our county. Capacity is not the issue to get the vaccine out. It's not getting as much vaccine as we have capacity for at this point. So let me talk a little bit about where we are actually at. Our transmission control is really key in the state. And when I say transmission control, it's just the social distancing. And it's the numbers that I had referred to in the fall when we were, between 70 and 80% social distancing, which again is now transmission control. Right now, or at least last week when the report was run, we were around 82% transmission control. And this number has a great deal to do with how well we're going to do moving forward. The estimated current infection prevalence right now in Colorado is 1 in 354 people. Again, that was estimated last week. That number has probably stayed close to that or dropped a little bit because we know that we are seeing plateaus in state numbers of cases at this point. We're also seeing plateaus and slight increases in our local numbers. Our 7-day average right now is around 53 people positive over 7-day average. And that has increased a little bit from a low in the low 40s. So it's really going to be key as we move forward that we maintain those prevention strategies we've been maintaining. The social distancing, the masking is going to be really important, especially for these next 2 months. We're so close to having light at the end of the tunnel. We're so close to being able to gather in larger groups, but we need to maintain the prevention strategies right now until we have more vaccine out in our communities. We also know and expect to see more continued growth of variants. We have B117 variant and the B1351 variant are the most common in Colorado right now. And again, what we want to do is make sure we're getting vaccine out as quickly as possible so that we can get in front of the rapid increase of those variants. If you look at the UK, their increase was pretty significant and faster than ours has been. But our ability to control that again comes down to that transmission control. So making sure we're meeting in small groups, making sure that when we're together, we're masking, that makes a huge difference. Masks are really effective. And if we can get ourselves and our students to continue that, it's going to help us move forward and it's going to help everybody be closer to the normal spot that we all want to be in so desperately and so badly. We did expect increasing cases as schools are coming back in person. But the last thing that we need to have happen or want to see is a significant increase in cases like we had in the fall, which then puts our entire community at risk. It puts our students at risk. It puts our staff at risk. And we don't want to be back in that space. It's critical that we really take this seriously. We know This is a small percentage of the overall students that are at the university. And we encourage all the students that are doing the right things to keep doing those right things, because we can maintain the type of environment that we want if we are diligent for just a little bit longer. And I will stop there and I'll turn it back over to Andrew.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks to all of our panelists today. Again, if you have a question, including about a particular job or your vaccine eligibility, please head to BuffInfo for more information to ask that question. But we want to give all of you the maximum amount of time to ask your questions today. Again, that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And we will start with question. Apologies, everyone. Having a quick computer glitch. Question here for Catherine Eggert. Are you planning to hold all classes live in person in the fall? Also, if all faculty, staff, and students have the ability to obtain a vaccine if they want one by the fall, is there any argument to not have all classes taught in person?
Thank you for those questions. They really get to the heart of what we are doing to plan for the fall. And I want to assure everybody on this call that we plan to offer the vast majority of our classes in person. A couple of factors here. First of all, even before the pandemic, we didn't offer all of our classes in person. Some of our classes were offered remotely or online before the pandemic, and we have seen that some students prefer that option. So we'll continue to offer those options in the fall, and using the lessons that we learned considerably over the last year about what makes for good pedagogy when you're teaching online or at a distance remotely. Second factor is we are following the science. We're working very closely with our crack scientific team who are advising us on epidemiology, ventilation, factors like that. And we have determined, based on a conservative estimate of vaccination and natural immunity rates of between 50 and 75% in the fall. So that's what we're assuming. And that gets us able to offer our classes with social distancing reduced from 8 feet, as it was this year, to 3 feet. So that gives us almost all of our classroom capacity back, except for classrooms with fixed seating, which are usually the very large classrooms where we're going to have students sitting every other seat still while we have that 3-foot distancing in place. So we're getting the capacity back. It's not 100% classroom capacity, but we are planning to offer the vast majority of our classes in person in the fall. And I want to turn to Jennifer McDuffie to talk about the vaccinations and what we can expect from our faculty, staff, and students in terms of vaccinations in the fall.
Thank you, Dr. Eggert. Good afternoon, everyone. We are really excited to be in the final push of our 1B3 phase. And so here at CU Boulder, I this morning was actually at our vaccine clinic, and we have about 400 faculty, staff, and students who are eligible through 1A, 1B1, 1B2, and 1B3 getting vaccines today. I think it's important to know that on Friday, as a state, we become eligible as 1B4 to get vaccinated. And so if you have not already, please submit the vaccine interest form. We will be reaching out to anyone who submits that and says they are interested or they would like more information. We will be communicating over the next couple of weeks. We do anticipate it taking us a couple of weeks to be able to offer the vaccine to all eligible 1B4 participants. Currently, we have about 8,000 of our faculty and staff and some students who are also employed here at CU who are eligible and are interested. And so we recognize that this is going to be something that we are able to offer here on campus. And if you are interested in that, the form is a great way to sign up. And from there, as opportunities become available, you'll receive an email with information on how to sign up for an appointment. Please know that it's very important for us that we're able to vaccinate those who are here on campus and student facing. And so we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that as soon as vaccines arrive, you have opportunities to get them. I think the other piece that I want to highlight as we look towards fall is all of the forecasting locally, regionally in the state, and also nationally, is that vaccine supply will increase. And as that increases, we anticipate having more here on our campus, but also allowing for a lot of our campus constituents to be able to get those through providers. So we want to make sure that we have enough supply in April and May so that any person who wants a vaccine is able to access it.
All right, thank you so much. A question here for Chief Harold. Will crowds be dispersed if they become a gathering on the Hill?
Thank you. That's a great question. You know, crowd control and crowd management is a very challenging tactical endeavor that really you have to be very careful about how you disperse. We don't want to cause, injuries. We don't want to use force against crowds. We really try to engage in dialogue. We will have enough resources on the Hill for actually the next several days that we feel comfortable that we'll be able to have an impact if there's crowds on the Hill. Keep in mind, though, that the police department really, really tries hard to ensure everyone's safety. But crowd control and crowd management really is a course in and of itself to do that safely for both the people in the crowd, people not taking part in violence. And so the more targeted and the more reasonable that we can be, there's a lot of research that suggests that to be reasonable when dealing with crowds is the best way to go forward. Obviously, we'll have standby units also if the crowds we feel are getting unruly, but I'm really hoping that we do not have another repeat of what we had last weekend. So I'm really hoping that CU students, just abide by the rules that are in place right now. But we will have sufficient personnel on staff to deal with crowds.
All right, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Question here for Devin Kramer. Is there any finding yet on the involvement or culpability of Greek houses in the March 6th party and subsequent rioting/misconduct?
Thanks, Andrew. No, not at this time. The culpability of individuals and groups is still being investigated.
Okay. A question for either Chief Harold or Chief Jokers, maybe both. Can you tell us what you're looking for in the pictures from March 6th that are being submitted? Is anyone depicted in a photo subject to arrest or suspension simply for being on the Hill and violating the health order, or does the photo have to depict a violent action of some kind?
Well, that's a great question. And so the bottom line here is that the behavior has to connect to an element of a crime. And that's why the investigation takes really days, weeks to unfold, is because we have to make clear that the video that we are looking at or the picture we are looking at can connect to a behavior that actually is a crime. And that takes some time. So if you are simply on the Hill in a picture, no, that necessarily does not connect to committing a crime. And that's why it takes, a few days to get through the investigative process. But I just want everybody to understand that not only does the police officer have to develop probable cause that a crime has occurred, but then the DA's office has to second that. And so there's a long oversight process before we make an arrest. And we are really due diligence on this process. So if the picture or the video depicts behavior that would be in violation of the elements of certain crimes, whether that be failure to disperse after a lawful disbursement, taking part of a riot, property damage, especially violence toward public safety. Those things will be connected and their arrests will be made after that, but not necessarily if you're just on the Hill. If there's a picture of you on the Hill, that is not going to equate to an arrest. Doreen, do you have anything further to add?
No, I would just echo what you're saying and to assure everyone that these photos are not being shared haphazardly. As our group of detectives and district attorney's office are working together, as Chief Harold said, that someone has to be committing a chargeable offense and it's posted for identification. If there's other ways to identify, then the detectives are going to use their investigative methodology to look into those as well. But a photo doesn't negate a charge per se, but we could be looking at other student conduct violations, such as violation of a public health order and looking at that. But there's definitely a logical and methodical way in regards to this investigation unfolding.
Thank you to both of you. Another question for Devin Kramer. How can you guarantee that if I get tested and self-quarantine, that I won't be identified as part of the disturbance and suspended?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I was saying earlier, the student conduct process uses the preponderance of evidence standard, or more likely than not standard. We have thousands of students who go through and get tested every week. There are numerous reasons that a student may self-quarantine. Those two pieces of information together are certainly not enough to start a student conduct process. And quite frankly, we want to encourage testing. We want to encourage people engaging in self-quarantine if that is necessary. So the other piece to know is that information with contact tracers is not shared with the Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution Office. So they would have no way to know that a person was self-quarantining or anything like that.
Thank you, Devin. A question here for Jennifer McDuffie. Are students who are eligible in, say, Group 1B3 for the COVID vaccine able to get it on campus? If so, how do they set up an appointment?
Andrew, thank you for the question. We are currently working with anyone who's in 1B, 1, 2, or 3. And so if you are in that category, please fill out the vaccine interest form. Once you do that and you're eligible, we will send you an email with detailed instructions on how to make an appointment. If for some reason you have not been contacted and you think you should, please email pro@colorado.edu and I will personally look into that. At this time, we did have a vaccine clinic yesterday, and since the university was closed, we did have to cancel and move all those appointments to Wednesday. But prior to that, we had reached out to and contacted every eligible person for appointments.
All right, thank you. Question for Jeff Zayak. Could you please repeat which variants are showing up in Boulder County and what the incident rate is of those variants?
Yes, thank you. And I actually gave, when I said the most prominent variants before, it was not the correct information. The most prominent variants that we have are B117 and B1427, 429. Those are the two most prevalent. The discovery of the South African variant was discovered in the Department of Corrections facility, and that is limited only to that facility. If you look at the UK projections, we should be between 30 and 40% if we had the same progression as the UK. When I looked at the modeling data from March 3rd in Colorado, the high point during that week was 6.8% of the total was where our variants were. That has probably gone up, but I have not seen the data from this week yet. We won't receive that until Thursday. I would guess it's higher than that, but it's significantly lower than what we would expect to see if we look just at the UK modeling. Hopefully that helped.
I think so. Thank you. Question for our student affairs professionals on the call. What social opportunities are there for students? This person says they seem quite limited right now on campus.
Thanks, Andrew. That's a great question. So Student Affairs is hosting more than 500 events this semester for our students to engage and meet others. These range from in-person events when we're able to virtual events. And we're seeing a lot of participation in our virtual events. When you look at the Center for Student Involvement, they do some cooking basics classes, and people are picking up their meal kits and then going home and doing the cooking basics through Zoom, which is, I think, pretty cool. Just around St. Patrick's Day, we have more than 300 events planned and are still adding others. We're looking at, if you're excited about basketball, we're looking at getting some watch parties scheduled in safe manners to watch our Buffs in the tournament. And we continue to plan a variety of other types of events so that students can find opportunities to meet and find people who have similar interests to them. The res halls are also providing additional opportunities if your student lives on campus. To get more information, go to www.colorado.edu/studentaffairs/student-events.
All right. Another question for Jeff Zayak. I heard Jeff say something about the lack of vaccine being a limiting factor right now until possibly early April, and I may have missed the details. Is the lack of vaccine regarding CU in particular, or a wider issue around Boulder, Colorado, and beyond? I'm curious if any of that is a result of our recent snow.
It is definitely a wider issue beyond just CU. It's Colorado in general. The state is not receiving as many vaccines as it has capability for. We in Boulder County can ramp up to about 35,000 vaccines a week with the providers that we have and the projections that we've made with those providers, but we're only getting between 8,000 and 11,000 per week. So it has nothing to do with the snow. It really has to do with the ability and supply of vaccine from the federal government to the state, and then the state to the locals.
All right, thank you. Another question for our police chiefs on the call. Aside from arresting people for crimes, will CU hold students who are in a crowd without masks responsible? Actually, I think that's a question for Devin Kramer as well. Why just being at the Large Hill event? Why would just being at the Large Hill event not be a public health violation / crime?
Andrew, who would you like to go first on that? Would you like me to take it for
Why not?
team?
Yeah, we start with Chief Harold and then work our way around to Chief Jokerst and then Devin Kramer.
Yeah, I think that, if we're talking public health violations, most certainly, if you're violating that ordinance, that we would, cite or warn. Obviously, we want to warn first to give people the opportunity to comply with the law. I think that's considered best practice. But at the point where we feel like it is, a definite violation of the ordinance and we cannot get compliance, then our officers have been instructed to make citations of that. Keep in mind, though, that when you engage in that without a proper deployment strategy, things can go sideways quick. So it's a very tense situation. I think if you look across the country on enforcing mask ordinances, there has been real violence associated with this. And so, you just have to do it right. And our intent is to get compliance with the mask ordinance. Doreen?
Yep, I would just echo that and say from a CU Boulder PD perspective, we definitely do have a tiered approach, same with Boulder PD, but when we're able to identify students that have violated public health order violations, that information is sent to student conduct, and Devin can speak to the practices associated with that and the adjudication or disciplinary processes associated with that from the school standpoint. But for our residential service officers who are in the res halls, when that information is made available and students are identified, we do send that information to student conduct. And so Devin, I don't know if you want to speak to those practices associated with that.
Yeah, and so, we get a lot of reports from police, from Residence Life, et cetera, of people violating public health orders, from not wearing a mask to, gathering in large groups, et cetera. For the event on the Hill specifically, we're letting Boulder Police and CUPD and other agencies do their investigation and then have them provide information to us. And we're looking at ways to get more information than just those who are criminally charged. And so if we do get information about a person, we know their name, we know that they're affiliated with CU, and we have some form of evidence that suggests that they weren't wearing a mask at the event or were in violation of another public health order, that would very likely result in a student conduct process. I do want to just emphasize we have to look at the facts in every case and determine whether or not it could be a violation of policy before we start a process.
All right, thank you very much. And this appears to be our last question for today. For Jennifer or any other CU officials on the call, any sense of whether or not sports teams will resume with fans present in the fall?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important to note that we're going to continue to follow local, regional guidelines. And so really looking at public health orders and how we can operate at a capacity that's both safe and also allowable. I think it's a little too early to tell what the fall will look like, but we do continue to work closely with athletics as well as our educational partners on this call to really align those policies and procedures with the experience here at CU Boulder.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you to all of our panelists on today's call. I want to advise everyone about the approach that we're taking to the weekly webinars this semester. We're alternating between faculty and staff campus Q&As and student and family campus Q&As. Next week, Tuesday, March 23rd, the campus Q&A will focus on staff and faculty questions. The next student and family campus Q&A will be the following week on March 30th. These updates are going to occur on a weekly basis throughout the spring semester from noon to 1 p.m. Mountain Time, with our last webinar scheduled for Tuesday, April 27th. If you have more questions or you'd like to see additional information, you can do so by visiting our COVID-19 website. Again, that's colorado.edu/COVID-19. There you can find a chat at the bottom right-hand side of the site where you can ask more questions. Again, Boulder County Public Health, we want to remind you, is hosting community briefings this year. Those are every other Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. BCPH's agenda at those meetings is to provide updates from Boulder County Public Health leadership, provide updates from public health professionals on current topics, including vaccinations, testing, and data, as well as updates from local partners. And lastly, the City of Boulder does a once-a-month briefing. Those are on the third Thursday of every month, from 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you all so much for joining us on today's call, and we will now end today's call.